Hey Heather, I finally got set up here. I'm so glad I was able to make these charts. It's so much easier for me to read this style of chart than the kind that I don't know what kind of house system they use, but they make it proportional, like it's supposed to be geared toward how the sky is actually divided up. And to me, it's just confusing because you end up with, like, on yours, your midheaven was way over here on the left where the ascendant should be. And so you have to, like, look at it all sideways. So anyway, I'm back with the traditional layout here, and it helps me quite a bit. I thought I would, because you said you're not an astrologer, and I think you probably know more than most newbies out there. So I apologize if I'm insulting your intelligence as I go along here, but I thought I would maybe explain some stuff about how the charts work as we go along. And I've kind of looked at the charts. I've practiced a little bit, thought of a few things, but mostly I'm going to approach this intuitively and just see what jumps out at us. And I am coming out of retirement, so it's been a while since I did a reading. So I might be a little rusty, but only for you. Only for you. So we have the natal chart on the left and the transit chart on the right. I'll start with the natal one. Of course, I'm sure you've looked at these before. They go counterclockwise. So the first house is just below the line on the left. Each house is native to one of the 12 signs, and they go in order. So house 1 is Aries, 2 is Taurus, 3 is Gemini, 4 is Cancer, 5 is Leo, 6 is Virgo, 7 is Libra, 8 is Scorpio, 9 is Sagittarius, 10 is Capricorn, 11 is not Uranus, Aquarius, and 12 is Pisces. The first quadrant, so houses 1, 2, and 3, is personal. And I'll explain a little bit more when I go through the 4 quadrants. First one is personal, like who am I as an individual? So Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Who am I? The second quadrant is family, or the world just beyond the individual. So the immediate family, and moving out into kind of the friend zone. Third quadrant is more societal in the sense of localized institutions. So 7 is committed relationships. It can be a primary relationship like marriage, but it can also be important like work relationships or business partnerships. But the main thing is, because it's the Libra house, it has that element of loyalty that goes beyond just a casual acquaintance or friendship. all the way to, the ultimate commitment of marriage. 8, Scorpio house is brings in the element of depth. So yeah, it's sexuality, but it's also, kind of like a hyper real experiential place where we get to find out what something means. It's the planet of deep meaning and deep karmic connection. So the sexuality that most people associate with Scorpio, 8th house, Pluto, and sometimes Mars, it has more to do with this intimacy that is hyper honest and meets in a really deep place that is intimidating to the vast majority of people. That's the ideal that's expressed there. And then the 9th house, Sagittarius, is like the education, institutions of education. I keep hitting my desk and it's making everything shake. Institutions having to do with education, also travel, gaining wisdom through experience. It's how, a person who carries the Sagittarius archetype, the Jupiter archetype, the 9th house archetype, somebody like you, they may go through life feeling like they're always learning, but at the same time, they're always teaching. They teach to learn, they learn to teach. There's this reciprocity there. And it's all in the interest of widening the boundaries. So that third quadrant is kind of like stepping out into the world in a way that is committed, definitive, all in, all or nothing. If we're going to do this thing, let's fucking do it. It has that element of, as my biker friends used to say, I am a right now motherfucker. It's that sense of, if I'm going to be alive on this earth, I'm gonna taste of it with a full gulp. No half measures. The fourth quadrant is the more the collective, the universal. So Capricorn, Uranus, Pisces. Capricorn, that 10th house is usually associated with livelihood, or more appropriately, career. It's, when I say career is, I hate that word. It's more, in an ideal way, it's talking about our station, our where we fit in, here's the best way of putting it, how we express ourselves on the big stage of life. And some people, basically they have no fourth quadrant. I think a lot of people are like that. They're that kind of 15 minutes of fame kind of thing. And it's not because they're any less worthy or there's something wrong with them, but it's not their karma. It's not their destiny to operate on that larger stage. And then there's other people who you would think wouldn't have a fourth quadrant presence in the world, who end up becoming social media influencers. They go viral, or they tap into the institutions of the world in a way that makes them really visible in whatever endeavor they're involved with. Music, media, politics, something that puts them out there in some way. Some writers get there, artists. And the big thing about that fourth quadrant, it culminates in the 12th house, Pisces, which is the lack of boundaries. If the 10th house is boundaries, the 12th house is lack of boundaries. And so it's this idea of throwing off the shackles, throwing off our limitations, using structure to transcend structure, or going through structure to transcend structure. The 11th house is the recognition that in order to do that in a fourth quadrant way, we can't do it alone. We have to learn how to cooperate with the group, with the collective. So without the collective, there's no fourth quadrant. It's kind of what it's all about. And so the 11th house is all about networking, delegating, sharing a common vision, having a vision. It's the image in the tarot deck. It's the Fool on top of the mountain and can see everything 360 all around, getting that wide angle view of everything. So that's the bit, I always look at that. So you are focused in the second quadrant in terms of planets. The way that I learned astrology originally, I mentioned Charles Babeau, an archetypalist, who studied with and actually lived with in New York City, Dane Rudyard, who was the original transpersonal astrologer. Charles used to say, if I'm going to recommend a book, it's Dane Rudyard's Astrology of Personality. And he said, just read it over and over and over again. Read it 6, 7, 8 times. And so I've done that. I'm incredible man. And so he absorbed a lot of his astrological and psychological philosophy from Rudyard. And so he saw astrology as this sort of ever expanding array of symbols that can easily become overwhelming, and the meaning of it can dissipate when we start chasing every symbol combination that presents itself. most astrologers, most professional astrologers, and I was in that world for a long time. Most of them think that the more they can dazzle you talking about, all these obscure heavenly bodies and these really obscure, 150 degree angles and 70-degree angle. They break the chart up in ways that are so esoteric that it loses its meaning. And so Charles established a hierarchy of meaning so that he could spend an entire hour talking about one planet, because there's so much richness there in terms of the archetypes. So at the top of the chart, or at the top of the pyramid, are the planets, because they're physical entities. They're concrete. They carry the most and the purest archetypal imprint, or they carry the purest archetypal imprint with the most impact. So you got out of the 10 planets, 6 of them are in the 5th house. 8 of them are in the 2nd quadrant. 9 of them are below the horizon. The 10th one, the moon, is barely above the horizon. So you're actually, I would have actually guessed this, but it kind of comes out in a different way. But you're actually almost an extreme introvert. We have very similar placements in our charts. I'm almost the same. I have 2 planets above the line. I have 1 in the 7th and 1 in the 8th. And the rest of them are in the bottom part of the chart, mostly in the 4th and 5th house. But yeah, people who have more than half of their planets below the horizon, in the 1st and 2nd quadrant, houses 1 through 6, are introverted. People who have almost all of their planets are really introverted. Your introversion flourishes in the family dynamic. And that's that part of you that I've picked up on, some of the things that you've said along the way, your preference for kind of having like an open house. Your kids' friends come over and your friends, and people are free to come hang out, and let's have some tea, and let's hang out in the kitchen and make something to eat. Let's go for a walk. It's very homey, and that's like your preferred place to live out your karma. That environment, it's home to you. Whereas the first house, our first quadrant, if most of your planets were concentrated over there, you would want to be alone more. You would be drained if you had to be around people in the home. But it actually feeds you. That doesn't mean, it doesn't mean you don't need space, because you do. If you have good boundaries, you've got Jupiter right there in the 2nd house. Jupiter in Leo. The 2nd house is the nest. Is archetypally, it is the house. It is the home. That's another reason why you like to organize your room. Because you're like a bird in its nest. You're always, adding new twigs and throwing other ones out, recycling. So you can definitely be a homebody. It's not hard for you, but it's almost like it's in preparation for sharing your home. And not just like with random people, but with people who you consider family. And I think for you, it's a little bit of a wider range of friends who you would consider or you would treat like family. Because you deep down inside you want that. You want that feeling of having people who you can depend on and who are supplying an emotional connection and intimacy that is reminding you of home, the comforts of home. Sitting on the couch with popcorn watching a movie. It's like heaven. So just on a very basic level, you can get a lot out of a chart just looking at where the planets are in terms of that person's introvert, extrovert spectrum. You're mostly an introvert. The reason why I wouldn't have guessed that is because having 6 planets in the 5th house means that you're kind of the life of the party. Always have been. Every head turns when Heather walks into the party. You just carry this light that people pick up on, and you don't care if they see it. Like, you're not invested in it. It just is the way it is. And that light is light-hearted. It's safe. It's what makes it attractive. It feels safe to other people to be around you. And part of that is your 5th house Virgo, or excuse me, 5th house. Your Saturn in Virgo in the 4th house. You're like a rock. Like a mother rock. So you provide other people stability, a sense of stability. And it's not like trying to convince them. It's not like you're just fluffing their skirt, telling them what they want to hear. No. There's truth there. Saturn is the truth, which can be something people want to hear or something people are desperate not to hear. But you're able to provide both sides. There's honesty there. So having Saturn in Virgo in the 4th house is providing a structure that's dependable for the people in your life, especially the ones that you would consider family. It's dependable, it's grounded, it's solid, it's honest, it's not afraid to tell the truth about yourself or the other person or the situation. It's invested in doing that. But then with all those planets, Sun, Pluto, Mercury, Mars, Uranus, Venus, all in the 5th house, more than half of your being is involved in expressing yourself from the heart. It's like this vulnerable beaming out. It's childlike. You're going to be that way all the way to the finish line. It's childlike, as if every moment is the first one. Every experience, it's like the first time you've experienced it. And I know, I'm oversimplifying it. That's probably not always true, but that's a quality that you represent in this world. So your way of expressing, even though 3 of those planets are in Scorpio, normally very intimidating and intense and raw. Because it's in the 5th house, you make it safe. You can talk about those things that most people are afraid to look at in a way that makes it safe. And not only that, but is it lightens it up. It takes that intensity that you're at home with and translates it into something that it's really healing for people to spend time with you, especially in the home. Because most people are too afraid to look at the deeper parts of their being, really look at it, really experience it. But you have a way of communicating around it and expressing around it that takes the, how should I put this, that invites the other person to let down their guard. That makes sense. Then the other 3 planets being in Libra, again, you got Sun right next to Pluto. There's that dark mother, intense life, death, regeneration, sexuality, meeting in the deep saying abandoned, but I mean letting go, kind of surrendered place that most people can't handle. The Libra part of you is, for an air sign, really solid because of the loyalty part of it. It's also similar to the Saturn piece in that it's honest because it is always weighing the different polarities of life. So you're seeking balance. And you bring balance to people that you're around. See if I can synopsize what's going on there in the 5th house. You represent some of the things about life that a lot of people are really reluctant to talk about, to experience, to open up to. The deeper issues that society has for the last 2,000 years persecuted. Think of the witches burning at the stake. There's there's feminine empowerment there that is threatening to the patriarchy. And I know I sound like a wackadoodle new age boulder person when I say that, but I'm talking about archetypes and how archetypes have lived in the collective. You've probably heard of the precession of the equinox, and every something like 2,200 years. There's an exact number, but I can't. It's not on my 2,168 or something like that. Each sign, if you divide up the whole equinox, where it takes planet Earth God, what is it? 26,000 years to move through the solar system to get back to that original place. And if you divide that by 12, the 12 signs, each sign has about between 21 and 2,200 years. So we've been living in the Piscean age. It goes retrograde. So we've been in the Piscean age, which is the symbol of the fish. Jesus Christ represents the Piscean age. So it began during the life of Christ. Now we're at the period where we have been transitioning into the Aquarian age. During the Piscean age, the first half of it was very empowering. It's coming from a very empowered, balanced relationship between the sexes, and has now gone really way far out of balance. And in the last years, it's gone from out of balance to this chaos where the sexes are now ambiguous. That's what this whole transsexual movement represents. It's muddying the water. It's these assholes telling us that men could get pregnant, for instance. And everybody has to, bend over backwards to validate somebody's, they, them pronouns. That's like the logical extension of the imbalance between the sexes, the genders, that happens at the transition between the Piscean and the Aquarian age. So here I'm coming back. You probably thought I was going to lose my train of thought. You, being such a strong dark mother type, 3 planets in Scorpio, including Mars and Venus, freak in the sheets. Sorry, I can say that because I have 4 planets in Scorpio, including Venus. All this Scorpio, Sun next to Pluto, that's the number 1 sign of being a dark mother. So you represent female empowerment that is extremely threatening to the masculine power structure. That's why, the surveillance and the I'm blanking on the technical term. It'll come to me. It's almost like I don't want to say it out loud. Gang stalking. Because you're a threat. And I feel like, a lot of this is kind of like the Matrix. There's some mechanism behind the scenes, or that some mechanism that they have access to, that can identify people archetypally according to their chart, or what their chart represents. Maybe there's a technology, there's a mechanism that can identify somebody who's going to be like, oh, that one's going to be trouble for us. Well, that you carry a lot of that energy. I think you carry so much of it that even though they've given it their best shot, they couldn't take you down. They couldn't take you out. Not according to the rules that they're playing by. You found a way through all the loss and the trauma and the, handling and the mind fucks. You found a way to still be yourself, and that alone is more than they got. So, coming back to my original insight here, I thought that you would have at least 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 planets above the line. Just watching you at work. That willingness to show yourself. You don't give it a second thought. I'm shy. I had to work at it. I had to literally work at it to get out of my shell in a public place. And it's very natural to you, and it's not because you are meant to express on the larger stage. It's because of all of this archetypal energy in the 5th house of Leo, the golden child. You're the golden child. It's like a portal where divine heart energy comes through. And it has to express. It just has to. And that's that party that's always laughing, wanting to laugh. Meow, meow, meow. So childlike. It has to lighten things up. Even though you're carrying all this heavy energy. And you're also intensely loyal to the people around you. You give the benefit of a doubt as much as you can, while at the same time expressing the honest truth about what's going on. It's impressive. So the moon in Sag, I use a 15-degree orb for the luminaries, sun, moon, and rising. So if any planet is within 15 degrees of one of the luminaries, it becomes a ruling planet. So like with sun, you got Pluto is 2 degrees away, Mercury is 6 degrees, and I don't think any of the other planets are that close by. No. So Pluto, the Dark Mother, and Mercury in a masculine sign makes that Gemini, which is the communicator. So the Dark Mother and the communicator are 2 ruling archetypes for you. Also, Libra goes with Venus. Venus is in Scorpio, so it's in a feminine sign. The feminine form of Venus is what is it? I'm sorry, I have to think about it. It's been a while. See, I told you I'm rusty. It goes with Libra. Libra is masculine. What does it go with? I kept wanting to say Virgo, but that's Mercury. Is it Taurus? Yeah, it's Taurus. Okay. Wow. So the Taurian Venus is a ruling archetype, which is the artist priestess. The nest maker, who is an artist and has to surround herself with beauty. Preferably beauty that she creates. I think that nails you pretty good. But that's because Sun is in Libra. That's what brings that in. Sorry, it took me a minute to get there. Moon is within 12 degrees of Neptune, so I call those conjunct, less than 15 degrees. So that brings in the mystic archetype to go along with the teacher traveler Sagittarius. The mystic, like I said, is the transcending of boundaries. You have a very strong Saturnian 10th house dynamic. It's not a ruling archetype, but it shows up in the structure of the chart. South node in the 10th house. In Pisces, the mystic. So in this lifetime, you have an ongoing tug of war. And it's like you keep telling me at work, you have one foot in the workplace, running around, taking care of your responsibilities, Saturn, and another foot in the spirit realm with your guides, the residue of meditation. Things like astrology would fit in there. Your psychic readings, definitely. And it sets up a tug of war between structure and the transcendence of structure. Going back and forth between maybe sometimes feeling trapped by the structure of your life. Time is in there. The physical outline of sprouts. The fact that you live in Longmont and have to go to Boulder to work. The highway system. Traveling. Having to take your car into the shop to maintain it. That's all Saturnian. You got all this adulting. Trying to pay off your debts. Work. It can feel like a trap. And then there's this other side of the tug of war that can easily see beyond it and understands the big picture. In fact, not just the big picture, but understands the cosmic picture. That can see it all from this transcendent, infinite perspective. that's really enhanced by Moon conjunct 6th house Neptune. The fact that your Neptune is in the 6th house and not the 7th, I guess I'll talk about that a little bit. The 6th house is the house of health and healing. So much of your healing relies on experience, gathering experience, so that you can build up healing wisdom through trial and error. This works, this doesn't. Or this worked then, it doesn't work anymore. Trying to come up with a recipe that is optimal for your health. And in the driving factor of that is intuition, is relying on that inner voice, whether it's your guides or your own soul. It's healing for you. That process is healing for you. Even when your skin's breaking out, or you're having female issues, or migraines, you're coming up against the pressures of work, and it's registering as stress, and that's having a deleterious effect. Did I say that right? Even with all of that, there again is that larger you that is at the helm behind all of this, that is aware of a longer time frame. You're able to do that. You're able to put your healing process in a proper context so that you're able to keep the energy moving. And conversely, that helps you to move through cycles more quickly than a lot of people who don't have the mystic involved in their healing process, or at least not as much as you do. The presence of the mystic there, Neptune in the 6th house, gives you this choice. You can make the choice to surrender, to trust in your body's wisdom, in your being's wisdom. And it's that releasing that keeps the energy going. And so you move through cycles fairly quickly. Even though when you're stuck, it feels like you're there for a long time. I mean, that's just the nature of it. But if you step back and look at it, you don't stay stuck. That's one of your secrets. You only stay in stationary in a cycle long enough to learn what you need to know. You stay there long enough to pass the test so that you can go on to the next module. Moon in Sag in the 7th, that's you in relationship, in committed relationship. And I would imagine that when you're with someone, when the father of your children, or any other committed relationship, whether it's marriage or somebody we're shacking up with, somebody we're committed to, you would have a tendency to expend a lot of energy making sure that person is comfortable, even at the expense of your own needs. And in a way, it's a form of projection, because you're giving to that person what you desire for yourself. And when I say give, I mean give. You don't hold back. You've had that instinct all along, even before you were a mother. It's a strong mothering. It's a nourishing mother. That's the archetype. So there's a strong mama bear element to it. But most of us who have a strong mother in our life, or grandmother, or grandmothers, all of those women in my life were archetypal nourishing mothers. And I saw that in you the moment I met you. It just beams out of you, and that's who you are at Sprouts. For a lot of those kids who work there. For me, for everybody, you're taking care of us. You go out of your way to make sure we're comfortable. And in a committed relationship, that goes into hyperdrive. And the thing about that is, you need to be reciprocated. You may have a hard time asking sometimes, or pointing it out. But it's like an imperative that you are able to receive nourishment as much as you give. It has to be kind of understood from the onset. Like this is a baseline need I have before we take another step further. I need somebody to care for me as much as I care for them. And if that doesn't happen, resentment builds up. It's inevitable. That imbalance, it takes a toll over time. Also in relationship, you need somebody who can either match you or accommodate you in terms of your need for adventure. A lot of that comes from those 6 planets in the 5th house, which is very childlike and likes to take risks. Needs to take risks. But it's also that Sagittarius that likes to travel, and a lot of times that traveling doesn't mean you have to go to Europe or Africa or Australia or Scandinavia or something. It could also mean connecting locally with people from foreign cultures, or doing things in the local area that are associated with foreign cultures. When you used to go to Burning Man, that would have been one of the main draws for you, is you're exposing yourself to like thousands of people. Many of them are from foreign lands, but all of them are bringing this heavy dose of their cultural expression, whatever that is. It's coming through. Music, dress, mannerisms, ethics, mores, etc., etc. Ways of speaking, language, dialects. All of that's really important to you, symbolically. And somehow in committed relationship, it's part of the equation for you. It's important for you to be with somebody who has that wanderlust, that need to experience life and to taste of it. And it nourishes you. And that's part of the reflection. So you need somebody who takes care of you as much as you take care of them, who regards you with that same level of nourishment. And you also need somebody who's willing to risk for adventure. And, that can take a whole lot of different forms. It doesn't mean that as you get older, you're as willing to do irresponsible things as you were when you were younger. But it's an energy. It's an attitude of saying yes to life. That's a good way of putting it. And you need that in that relationship space. You know what, Heather? I could go on and on and on about your natal chart, but I think we've talked for almost an hour now, and I haven't even looked at the transits yet. Maybe I'll stay unretired and we can get some coffee or something, and we can look at this chart, and I can talk about the nodes, South Node, and also Chiron. So if you'd like, we can do that. But I just wanted to touch on a couple things transit-wise. Oh, another thing I thought was it might be interesting to do a chart. This is only if you want to. We don't have to, okay? But it occurred to me that doing a chart for the time of Cody's death, if you're ever ready to do that, I'm willing to come out of retirement again. Because I think it might have some information that could be helpful for determining what it means for your archetypal journey through life. So just throwing that out there. So you actually don't have a lot of it looks like, when you first look at this chart on the right, the outer ring is where the planets were at 9:43 this morning when I did the chart. So it's pretty much the same right now. Moon is probably now in, let me see, it says it's at 1. Now it's probably in Pisces, I'll betcha. Because we're 7 hours later. It's moved on into Pisces now. So Moon for all of us is conjunct. No, it's not. I take that back. It's not conjunct. But it's, you know what? I'm rusty. I'm looking at it backwards. Moon is probably at 2 degrees Aries or 3 by now. So it's still in Aries. But the point I'm trying to make is the stellium of planets up there in the 10th house. I'm pointing at it, but I don't think you can see. Well, you can see me. I'm pointing at the 10th house. And we got Moon, Neptune, Saturn, the ascendant North Node, all in the 10th. You'd think that they would be impacting all over the place in your chart. Let me see, 30, 60, 90. Okay, they're squaring. Saturn, Neptune, and Moon are squaring Moon in your chart. So we can talk about that. The stellium in the 8th house, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Pluto, and Mars, that's happening in the sky right now, all in Aquarius. Wow, all of that is hitting the collective right now. Holy shit. Damn. Trying to think of where do I have it's on my 7th house. Our charts are very close together. It's in your 8th house. It's on my 7th house. Those are all within 7 degrees of each other. Wow. With the sun right in the middle. damn. And Sun is exactly to the degree conjunct Pluto in the sky. So we are in a very intense collective moment. Wow, I hadn't even thought about that. This happens once a month. The sun goes around every month. But we just happen, as I'm speaking, that's what's happening. Those 5 planets are not, they're not connecting with any of your planets. They're what's called in conjunct with Saturn and in conjunct with Jupiter. But they're not, I only really count oppositions, trines, and squares, and especially conjunctions. So 0, 90, 120, and 180. Those are the aspects that I use in my form of astrology because they carry the most archetypal meaning. Most astrologers will find anything they can get their hands on, and if it's 150 degrees or 170 degrees or whatever, they'll make a big deal out of it, but there's not that much archetypal power there to really talk about it. So those 5 planets are not really impacting any of your natal planets. So the biggest thing you got going on is transiting Moon, Neptune, Saturn, squaring your Moon in the 7th house. So there's that Saturn and Neptune in the sky that I was talking about earlier, that tug of war between structure and transcending structure. So collectively, we're all experiencing that. You're just experiencing it more than most people because you have that embedded in your natal chart. So it's impacting you more than most people. That tug of war, work responsibility, paying bills, paying debts, saving money, dreaming of your own home, versus I just want to be in the reading space. I want to meditate. I want to do my art and listen to music. I want to commune with nature and my inner infinity. It's really strong. And though that dichotomy, those polarities are really pronounced for you and the collective right now. And it's squaring your Moon there in the 7th house. Squares are internal challenges. Oppositions are external challenges. Trines, 120 degrees, are external flow. It's representing something that's working. Conjunctions are the beginning of a new cycle. It's very, very potent. It's the most potent of all the aspects, 0 degrees. So 90 degrees, this would explain, to get to the point, it would explain a lot about the struggles you're having emotionally around having to go to work. Because right now, it's way out of balance. The work-life equation is way skewed on the work side and the responsibility side and the burden of meeting those responsibilities, living up to them, the responsibility of running the store and making sure that you and Hannah are repping with the company. It's a lot, and it's a sacrifice. And in this instance, it's a sacrifice of your natural inclination. And it's not that you don't like. I think that you're a good worker and you have really good, a really good work ethic and strong belief, Germanic girl, woman, it's natural to you. It's just that there's this part of you, your soul part of you, that is just desperate to breathe, to have space, to express. And it's so hard to do that when you got 900 things to do at work and people are paging you and Heather, 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 code 1. Come check out this homeless person walking out of here with all kinds of stuff. One thing after another. And I watch you. Some nights it's no biggie. And I see that. I see the Piscean artistic part of you. It's that really your fifth house planets is what gets you through. Your ability to lighten things up despite the circumstances. I mean, if you didn't have that, yeah, no way, Jose. But you do have that. And so when you can breathe just a little bit at work, it's like your whole being converges on that moment and makes the most of it. So you're finding a way, just like you always have, you're finding a way to move through the challenge that is represented by that polarity between structure, responsibility, authority, rules, regulations, expectations, time. Between that and presence, just being. No demands. No pretending like we know what's really going on, but just being. Allowing our true self, that part that's bigger than all of this, that's beyond all of this, to express fully through us, to get out of the way. So it shows up pretty strongly in your transits right now. I would say that is the main process that you're moving through. Neptune is the second slowest moving planet in the chart. So, I mean, this is a period of time that's going to last years. I think one of the positive lessons that's coming through it, Neptune in a square with Moon, natal Moon, is trying to teach you more about how to nourish yourself, even in the midst of work. And I feel like in a way, you're having the experience of work, of being a manager at a large grocery store, at a large Sprouts, having to work 50, 60 hours a week. I feel like you're having that experience because Neptune square your moon needs that friction, needs that challenge, needs that boundary in order to teach you or recondition you in a way that transcends it. And if you didn't have something that constraining, it wouldn't have anything to work with. So there's some profound growth here that's happening through your experience as a manager. And it's not easy. There's some suffering involved. You know, for the last year, it's impacted your ability to grieve and to get in touch with those parts of your being that were impacted by Cody's death. It's a huge challenge. But in some way, and I'd be curious to hear what your guides say, but I think in some way it's necessary because you're being prepared by Neptune to address your South Node in Pisces karmic lesson in this lifetime, which we will come back to when I have more time. We'll talk about South Node and also North Node and Chiron, and maybe your rising sign. Okay, I think I've gone over an hour probably. I don't know. I can't tell. I'm sorry if I'm blabbering on. I love you. You have a very powerful natal chart. Kind of blows me away. Maybe I'll show you mine sometime. Okay, Heather. I hope you had a good day. I hope you did get some space today. Hope you have time to watch this. I know you will eventually. Okay. I'm going to take off now. Mwah!